of the 8th of November 2023. I have apologies from Councillors Bradley and Brogan. I see that Councillor Brown is present. Just looking to see if Councillor Calicis is here. And I'm not seeing Councillor Calicis at the moment. Councillor Cowan is here, as is Councillor Cowie. Councillor Fulton is also participating remotely. Looking for Councillor Lennon. And I'm not seeing Councillor Lennon at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on those. Councillor Loudon is here. I have apologies from Councillor Nugent. Councillor Ray is here, as is Councillor Walker. So having taken, and there are a number of officers present as well, so having taken this adherent in the absence of the Chair and Deputy and in terms of Standing Order number 33B of the Council's Standing Orders and Procedures, can I ask the committee to choose a member from among your number to chair the meeting? Thank you very much. In that case, could I ask Councillor Cowan if you wouldn't mind sitting at the Chair's PC? If you want to take your card out, we'll pop it back into the Chair's PC microphone, if that's all right. And there's a note at the...
All right. Should I bring my laptop? I've got the papers on it.
I'll give you a spare set of papers. Hold on. A spare set of papers. That's us.
That's lovely, thank you.
Okay. And with that, I'll hand over to you, Chair, if that's all right. Okay.
Yep, okay. Thank you. I wasn't expecting this afternoon, so bear with me. I'll just welcome everybody to the meeting, and we'll start. Sorry. Yep, hold on. Okay, so we'll just start at the moment. Any declarations of interest? No? No, thank you. And the minutes of the previous meeting? Everybody happy to agree those? Yeah, thank you. Okay, and now if we can go to item 3, participatory, I didn't know I was going to have to say that today, budgeting, education resources, and could I ask Maureen Farr to speak to this? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm here to give an update on progress on participatory budgets since the last area committee in June. So before the summer holidays, the head teachers were informed that participatory budgeting would continue into this session, 23-24. They were asked to allocate a minimum of 5% of their 23-24 PEF budget and identify a member of staff to lead this piece of work in their school. Schools were informed the principles and practices of PB are applicable across their full PEF allocation as per the national guidance, and schools were therefore encouraged to put aside more than the recommended 5% where possible. And in fact, in Rutherglen, Cambuslang, on average across the 22 schools, the allocation is 6%. On the 21st of August 2023, a PB training event was delivered to head teachers and PB leads who felt that they needed a refresh or had been given that remit for the first time. PowerPoints were then put on a Teams page for anyone who wanted to access that. So there was an outline of expectations and timescales and the support available to them. It also drew on the learning from last session, signposting resources and good practice examples from previous years. And the PowerPoint presentation was shared with all the schools thereafter through the PB Teams page. Following this, the head teachers identified the percentage of their PEF allocation they wanted to allocate, and they were asked to submit this information to education resources in their profile of spend by the 31st of August. The PB Teams page continues to facilitate the sharing of good practice across schools, as well as providing live ongoing support to the PB leads. So this session within Cambuslang and Rutherglen, the schools have collectively allocated £113,207.25, which is approximately 6% of their allocation of PEF, which was £1,819,225. Appendix 1 shows a breakdown for each learning community, and that's page 9 in your pack. Appendix 2 summarises the percentage of PEF allocation that schools have allocated for PB, and that's page 10. 64% of schools did allocate the 5% of their PEF budget, which leaves 36% of schools who allocated more than this. And for a school-by-school breakdown, you would want to see Appendix 3, which is page 11. The PB stakeholder groups in each school were comprised of pupils, parents and staff, and they continue to lead the PB process. The outcome for each school was to be reported to Education Resources via a Google form by the 9th of October. And the information on the outcomes of the process I've put on here will be shared at future area committee meetings, but I've actually managed to pull together that information, and it is in your pack. Since the report was written, all schools have now managed to report on their stakeholders' choice of PB outcome. So on Appendix 4 on page 14, I can update the couple of schools who hadn't yet chosen. So where we have TBA for Rutherglen High School, they have chosen to use their money for playground resources or to update their playground. Borough Primary are going to spend the majority of their money on educational excursions with extracurricular and outdoor learning resources. And Burnside Primary are going to use the money for extracurricular activities. As can be seen in Appendix 4, many of the schools will be using their money for school educational excursions, which reflects the high value schools and their stakeholders place on making these trips affordable for all. All information was correct at the time of reporting, and as I said, there are a number of schools we're still to submit, but I've updated you now on that, and I'm happy to put that in writing to update the record. So following the votes, we will continue to provide updates. We're going to continue to monitor what the schools are going to do and who has been particularly successful. And our plan is to invite a head teacher to the next committee where we would be reporting to share their successes in this area. There will be a detailed local authority financial report on how the PEF money allocated for PB has been spent, and that will be done in May and June 2024. Education Resources will support schools with implementation of this and monitor and track the impact of this activity. Findings will inform any future PB activity within Education Resources. Regular PB updates and the highlighting of good practice will be communicated to schools via the Equity Hub and through our SLC Equity Twitter handle. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much. That was very informative. I don't know how much input the kids had. There seems to be a lot of educational money being spent here, rather than just on, pantomimes and trips and things. But anyway, I'm joking. Robert Brown, I think, would like to come in. Thanks.
Yes, thanks very much, Chair. I just wanted to welcome the report and to say, I think we got from the report there that there had been quite a bit of involvement, in fact, by young people in trying to devise the outcomes of the PB. I think it's been a worthwhile sort of enterprise in that regard. And I think obviously each year that they do it, I think you learn from what works and what doesn't work kind of idea. Could I, with your permission, though, I did put my hand up on the previous item of the minute, just to note in the report, if we might, the fact that the Rutherglen Town Centre plan was put out for consultation at yesterday's community enterprise meeting, and to note also, as you're aware, that we've since set up the Rutherglen 900 thing for the anniversary as well. So it has nothing to do with the participation on this one, but as I say, nobody took any notice when I put my hand up before, I'm afraid.
Sorry, apologies, Robert. I'm literally been thrown in here and I'm looking at the screen. I'm completely baffled, but sorry, I apologise. Thank you.
For what it's worth, when I chair meetings as well, I find that when I come to it the next time, I've forgotten what happened the last time. So it's a bit of a awe-inspiring thing.
Well, it's been noted, yeah.
Primarily to welcome the report, anyway.
Thank you. Thanks. Katie Loudon, please.
Hi everyone, thanks very much, Chair. Thanks for the report. I just wanted to make a brief comment. The last time that we'd had a similar report at area, and I had asked for a wee bit more information about training, and specifically around procurement and suppliers, and that was based on feedback from a parent council, and they thought they could have done with it a wee bit more help. So I just wanted to say that it's great that the training has been refreshed and that it's been shared with all of the staff that were there, so it can be shared more widely with groups like parent councils and friends of groups, because I know that they, in many schools, they're heavily involved, particularly when it comes to helping the management engage with the wider parent body. So I just wanted to say I was pleased to see that in the report today. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks again to Maureen, and can I just ask everyone's happy to agree to note this report? Yep. Thank you. Thanks. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture Commissioning Plan, and I'll invite David Booth to give a verbal update on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Committee. I've got Kay Morrison, the Chief Executive of South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture, alongside me, so we're hoping to do this as a bit of a kind of a double act, where I'll talk about the work that is ongoing at the moment in terms of the SLC commissioning plan, and given that this work is being done as a joint exercise between the Council officers and the SLC officers, Kay will hopefully be able to come in and provide some additional context to the information that I'm imparting to committee. So this is just to give committee a verbal update on the work that we're carrying out just now in developing the Council's commissioning plan for SLOC, or as we like to describe it as the Council's ask. And through this I hope to update committee on evolving guiding principles which will form the basis of this ask of SLLC, and which will assist SLLC in planning and the delivery of the services that they provide on behalf of the Council moving into the future. The plan has been developed following sessions with elected members which were held on the 19th of June and the 12th of September. And discussions which arose from those sessions have formed the basis of a set of developing guiding principles, along with other factors, most prominent amongst which is the Council's plan. In particular, we're trying to bring together how the activities provided by SLLC, which are provided on the Council's behalf, best align with the objectives of the Council plan. I'd like to remind committee that this exercise is one of a sort of three-pronged approach, which is that there's this exercise which is describing the Council's ask of SLLC, and that has to be seen in context with another couple of exercises which are ongoing at the moment. One is an exercise looking at the leisure and cultural estate, the condition of that estate, the appropriateness of it, and the task that face us as a collective, as a council and SLC, in terms of adapting that state to make it net zero going into the future. And the other prong is, and probably perhaps the dominating prong at the moment, is the financial outlook that the council and the SLLC face, and elected members are aware that there's a session tomorrow where we talk about the amount of money that's going to be available to the council and by association to SLLC as we move into the future. But this particular part of the exercise, which is a commissioning plan, tries to look beyond a savings exercise and even beyond looking at the condition of the assets, and tries to cast itself into the future as to what is the outcomes that we would like to see SLLC deliver on behalf of the council. And again, that's where it does link into that longer vision as set out within the council plan. I intend to I'll describe in headline terms each of the 7 guiding principles that we have developed to date. That number may change as we go through, and we hope that over the next few weeks to be in a position to reflect back to a wider council audience of councillors to test if we have got this right. And also do a similar exercise in conjunction with through the South Lanarkshire Leisure and Cultures Board. So the areas that we're developing in no particular order are the first one is about the spaces for our communities, is the kind of broad heading we're having there, which is about providing spaces that are appropriate for our communities to undertake the activities which are dear to them and are appropriate to their use. So some of that includes things like the community halls, the school estate, and other activities that can take place in areas within leisure centres and sports centres. The second one is a broad heading which is around about cultural activities. And Kay will unpack that a bit more as well when I hand over to her. The third sort of broad principle is around about health and well-being, which South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture already contribute to in a great way towards the health and well-being of our communities. And again, I'll pass on to Kate about that. The fourth area we're looking at is what we're describing as being heritage and green spaces. And again, that covers things like country parks, and again, Kate will cover that. The fifth area is physical activity. And in physical activity, there are a number of subsets to that. So there are indoor activities. There's what we would describe as wet side activities, so swimming and swimming lessons. And then there are outdoor activities, which covers things like golf, bowling, football. The sixth area we're looking at, we've given a broad heading at this stage of library services, but it's not just about book lending. It's about all the other areas that libraries do, things like BookBug, the lending service itself, and the literacy development programmes. And the seventh area is an area where we're calling it the wider achievement agenda, which is about leadership programmes at SLLC run, outdoor education and adventure programmes, things like active schools. So those are the broad headings. With the committee's indulgence, I'd like to pass over to Kay, who'll talk a wee bit about each of those, and it would be useful, again, for us to take any feedback from members of this committee as we go through this process, or to ask us any questions on that. As I say, this is a work in progress at the moment. So if that's okay, I'll pass over to Kay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, David.
Thanks, David. So as David says, I'm just going to cover under each of those headings a little bit more in terms of what some of the areas that we currently deliver on. So if we look at the community spaces, that very much is about just recognising the role that we play in terms of connecting people to each other and to their communities. So we understand that the spaces from which we do that are really important. It's thinking about the suitability of those spaces, flexibility of those spaces as well. And that's certainly a role that we play in terms of providing those spaces, and also, overseeing the management booking of those types of spaces. Equally, we have other community spaces in its broader sense where we programme specific activities as well to make sure that we're doing all we can to engage members of the public to come through the doors and trying to create an attractive and appealing offer for them to do so. If I then move on to the cultural activities, so under that heading just now, it is quite broad, as you would imagine, but that includes things like our arts classes, our music classes, again, those opportunities to grow and develop. It's our events, our performances, it's everything that sort of comes as part of that in terms of the wider cultural activities as well. And again, we have a mix there. We have a mix of what we do to support community groups who actually organise that for themselves, as well as activities and programming that we do to put on performances, events, to provide specific classes of interest to the communities. Again, just acknowledging that the interests of the communities are far and wide, and we like to deliver as wide a spread as we possibly can to make sure we are trying to engage with as many members of the community as we possibly can. And that's just recognising some of the key ways in which we do that at the moment around the sort of the wider culture offering. If I then look at health and well-being, I suppose this one's an interesting one. Everything we do has a really positive impact on health and well-being, and that, as you can imagine, is something we're really quite proud of. But I think it's just finding the right space to put that in something like the sort of commissioning plan as it starts to shape up. And so it's recognising that we play a role in health and wellbeing simply by, look, we have activities and facilities and we open our doors and people choose to come in, and that we already, meet a big part of the health and wellbeing criteria as part of that. Then it's about, but actually what do we do that is proactive, that's that next step further? And we do that quite a bit in partnership as well. So one of the big examples here is our GP referral scheme. So we do that in partnership with the Health and Social Care Partnership. We get funding to support us to do that, which is excellent. And that allows us to offer additional support through staff that have specific expertise and training to appropriate levels to support those people to come and engage in the activities, come into those facilities who otherwise probably wouldn't, but through the referral from their GP and the recognition that actually, particularly around the physical activity element at the moment in that programme, that participating in that does have a real positive benefit on their health outcomes. That can be from things like rehab. It's also kind of prehab in terms of prevention, so it's prevention, early intervention, pieces in and around that we do. So that can deal with people with long-term conditions, be that stroke, heart, diabetes, falls. A lot of falls prevention work and things are part of that too. It also includes other external funding from national bodies such as Sport Scotland. So if we look at our active schools, our sports development side of things as well, that comes through funding, and then we match some of that funding with Sport Scotland as well, just to make sure we're getting maximum impact for the resource that we do have. So Active Schools focuses predominantly on in and around the school day, as the name sort of says in the tin there. And the idea is that we offer as many activities as we possibly can on the doorstep. So we're trying to remove as many barriers to participation for school-aged pupils as we possibly can. If I then look at the wider side, the development services side, that's where we do a lot of our community group support. So we'll do work there with a lot of the sports clubs and things there. So that's really about helping them plan for the future, succession planning, support with funding, applications, looking at hooking them in with their national governing bodies as well, and being able to support them through that process. There's definitely areas for further development in there as we see that. If I take the GP referral programme that I spoke about there, right now that's really slanted towards physical activity, but actually we understand we've got a really important role to play around the mental health and wellbeing side of that too. There are other activities that we offer around that. So in our libraries we offer some of the memories programmes, so that allows local people in the community to come together, reminisce, share memories, and we've got people who come and lead those sessions for them. And having been to a couple of them now, they definitely do have a huge impact, and it's nice to see the difference that it is making. So those are just some of the examples of what we do just now around health and wellbeing, but it really is really quite far-reaching. If I then move on to heritage and green spaces, so that takes in our country parks, the museum, the mausoleum, that type of thing. So again, we want to make sure we retain a great service when people do come to these particular types of venues, but also in terms of our programme development, the engagement, actually making sure that our exhibitions in the museum, they keep moving on and they keep changing and they are of interest, to make sure that in our parks we're evolving what that offer looks like so it is continually attractive. And of course we do host events and things in there as well, so that we've got a wide range. And again, a lot of what we do across the services really goes through from early years through to older adult as well. So we try to again make sure we're catering for as much of the community as we possibly can. Then when we look at specifically physical activity, as David noted there, that does cover quite a big wide range, as you would imagine. So it covers indoor physical activity, outdoor physical activity. So it does include the swimming, things like bowling, football, golf, that type of thing. It also includes, again, the support for clubs in terms of club sport and spaces and places for them to come and take part, as well as the gyms, the fitness membership, the classes, and a mix of that. And we've already seen some evolution in there, in that in some of our leisure centres actually there's a cultural offering in there. So some of those music classes might be taking place in the leisure centre facility there as well. And as an organisation, we would really like to move forward more as one organisation and move away from this leisure and culture sort of separate thematic, and bring it all together as one offering for the community. If I then move on to the library services, again, I don't expect I need to tell anybody here, it's been a long time since the libraries were just about book lending. So what we are seeing though in the libraries is an increase in the digital uptake. That's something that we saw sort of coming out of COVID, and we kept an eye on it. We weren't really sure where it would go. Would it maybe drop off again? But we're seeing that trend continue in there as well, which is just something for us to be aware of and make sure, again, our offering there is fit for purpose too. It does include things like the BookBug programme, hugely successful, and we have specific staff in the libraries who are responsible for developing that programme and delivering it. As I touched upon earlier, we've got things like the Memories projects and the groups there. We also have a partnership with Macmillan Cancer, so that's about access to resources, but also someone there to come and have a conversation and again help direct people to other lines of support that they can access to. We offer things like Macathon sessions as well, so that's again, if we think about our objectives in terms of equality and inclusion, which are really important, it's offering sessions to make sure that it's accessible to as many people as possible. There's also things we do in the libraries in terms of Lego Club, digital, upskilling around digital, the computers, the training, the online training for older adults as well as the younger kids as well. So again, it's the breadth of the community that it reaches in there. And then finally, in terms of the wider achievement piece, and again, I think as David says, these headings will evolve as we move forward. The wider achievement piece was really also to flag some of the work that we do that again really helps all areas of the community. When we talk about, I feel sometimes often in the culture side, and we talk about, oh well, it's an art class, it's a music class, this is learning and education and achievement is what's happening there for adults in the community out with a formal education environment. Likewise, we do of course see school pupils engage in that. We also do a lot of work closely with the schools, so the likes of our outdoor education team work closely with education social work and to target specific individuals there who might not be engaging with that traditional formal format of education, but it is important that they have that opportunity for wider attainment as well. We also do some of that through, again, our development services team, and that's about providing opportunities for school pupils for positive destinations, but also training in terms of leadership skills and qualifications in that as well, so that we are, again, making sure we're supporting that. I think, again, in terms of the wider achievement piece, we operate quite a large volunteer network in South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture, circa 1,000 volunteers involved in that. So that's about us making sure that we're recruiting, supporting, deploying volunteers, and making sure that we're giving them those opportunities to get that experience that they can then refer to, and also the opportunity for the development and the skills and the different training courses and things that we put them through. I think beyond that, it's just then really about our wider community support and how we can, through this commissioning model, demonstrate that in line with whatever they ask from the council as on South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture in that regard. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, David. Thanks.
So thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Kay. So I suppose then, just to as Kay's given that description, so to bringing that back into where we are at the moment, and I think you'll start to see this evolving. We're at the stage now, having developed it to this stage, is to start to try to say, well, what about the balance? And this is what we want to reflect back to our elected members and ultimately to our communities about, with the available resources and with those broad sort of principles in place, where are the areas that we believe, in order to take forward the council plan and the objectives of our communities, we want SLLC to start to grow? Where are the areas that we accept, because of the limited resources that will be available, that they may need to reduce certain activities on in order to prioritise into growth, and where within that there may be activities that we might decide are no longer meeting our requirements and may need to stop. Again, the savings exercise that we find ourselves in many ways might accelerate some of those discussions, but the idea here is about setting that broad, long-term objective that, irrespective of what the in-year and year-on-year savings are, that sets a direction for SLLC. And as I say, we want to come to elected members in relatively short order to test whether we've got some of this correct. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everybody would agree that you've got a huge portfolio, Kay. I mean, it's unbelievable the stuff that the SLLC does, and it's very much appreciated. So we've got a question, I think, from Margaret Walker, from Councillor Walker. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just first of all, obviously, to thank David and Kay for giving that sort of overview and update, because obviously this is very pertinent at the moment in relation to all of the various discussions we're having around finances and budgets. But also just to say thank you for the workshops, for those of us that attended. I found that, and I'm sure my colleagues did, find that a really useful exercise in terms of going through what facilities, etc., within our wards, and looking at in more depth in terms of all the activities that were offered. And what struck me was that every hall we looked at, libraries, was the range of activities that was ongoing. It covered a full range of of activities that covered people from babies to people in their 90s or older, and how well used those facilities actually are, which I know actually doesn't help in the sense of the decisions that we may, our SLLC and South Lanarkshire Council may be faced with in the coming months. So it's very difficult from that point of view, because certainly in terms of my own ward, and since those workshops, I mean, I do actually spend quite a bit of time in the Institute anyway, and I've been out to other halls, including Duke Street, which, as you know, is run by a volunteer committee. And I, as I'm sure other councillors will have had, panicked emails and calls from people. So I have been out in numerous visits, and have been just utterly impressed by the commitment. And what is apparent as well is that those facilities, those community facilities, they're a lifeline to people. They're such a huge lifeline to a lot of people, and particularly when they all sort of started to open up again after the COVID pandemic. The numbers of people who were saying, oh, thank goodness I can actually get out the house and see people and get some physical activity, and the positive impact that has on mental health, physical health, everything. So it is, I think, really impressive from that point of view in terms of how well used those facilities are and how innovative some of the, the activities and beneficial they are, particularly relating to some of the educational stuff as well, the digital stuff, all of that, and also the positive impact for people who have mental health issues as well. So all of which kind of doesn't, I know, help you in terms of what may be, sort of further down the line in terms of prioritising and looking at how we want to do that and how we want to move ahead in terms of what kind of landscape we want to provide for the future. But and I was going to ask a question as well. When there is a kind of draft plan produced, will there be further opportunity for sort of area committees and communities to be, further consulted on what the recommendations are that you will produce when the kind of consultation in this process comes to an end? Will the draft recommendations go out for consultation? Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. Our proposals at the moment is we're working up and trying to get to shape this up into a sort of draft report that we would take to and working out with our colleagues in administration services is the best route to take that through in terms of what committee it would go through. What we hope to do as well is to have another, if it's possible, to try and bake in another session with elected members just to test some of that before it goes into any sort of formal sort of process to make sure we've got that right. And in terms of the engagement with our communities, we're trying to make sure that we've got the correct linkages between the council plan and the and SLLC's own strategic documentation, which has already been through consultation as well for various consultations. So we're looking at that and looking also about how do we engage with our communities to make sure we're getting this right. So I suppose what I would say is all of that is kind of in scope of the work at the moment as we try and do this. But what we're trying to do is to try and to almost where we can to separate this out from the savings exercise, because that becomes such a dominant thing, because this is about the long term. Where do we want to take those so we're just trying to get the timing of that right, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, David. I don't see any more questions. Anybody want to? No? Okay, that's us. Thanks very much to David and Kay for your presentation, and we'll just ask the committee to note what you've said, and I've no doubt we'll hear a lot more about this in the coming months, so thank you very much for your time. Next on the agenda is the community grant applications. Presumably everyone's having or had a wee look over that. Anybody have any issues, any questions they'd like to raise? No? Okay, I'll just have a quick word with Pauline just to... So these recommendations, then do we just agree to all of that or go through them one at a time?
If the committee's happy to agree the recommendations for each group or block, that would be fine.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
else.
okay. Sorry, apologies. I was just having some on-the-spot training there from Pauline. I was just checking then if everybody's happy just to accept the recommendations as a block. No one's got any questions or any issues, then we'll just agree that. Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. Okay, and no urgent business has been noted, and so I'll just bring the meeting to a close. Hope Carol's enjoying her cruise, and I'm sure you would probably quite like me to stay as chair, seeing as we just rattled through that. But thanks very much for your patience today. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Chair.